Hi, it's been about a month since I put up my notorious pop quiz. And although there's been a number of views and a few likes, no attempted answers in the comments. And then it dawned on me, and I have to apologize for this, but I didn't really take into account that comments are public, and this might be inhibiting to pretty much anyone. Uh, so I'm hoping that's at least part of why nobody tried to respond. So what was this all about? Why did I make this a quiz? Why now? What was I trying to get at? And so on. So Chalam Jashonte, Chalam Jashonte, in place of a word final chal, Jush will come. In place of a word final chal, Jush will come. Well, that's not very complicated sounding. So what was I asking? I said something like, what does that mean here on the ground? What does that actually translate into? Why does it matter? And why is this not quite as straightforward as it may seem? Well, what I had in mind was, first of all, I gave, I guess you could say, hints, um, uh, leading to the idea that these being pratyahara was part of the puzzle. And that's exactly right. So my first point was the most straightforward. Everybody, I'm sure, got it that these are pratyahara. So what are they exactly? So let's look at that. Jal, um, sorry, Jal. What is Jal? Well, Jal is Jabangi Gardadash, Jabagardadash, Kapachatata Chatatav Kapai Shashasar Ho. In other words, Jal is all of the consonants, all of the letters except for ach and the semivowels, hun. So uh, that's quite a few. And what is Jush? Jush is Jabagardadash. Jabagardadash. So that's only five. Jabagardadash. So that's the first answer. What does this mean on the ground? It means in place of um, everything except the vowels and the semivowels and ha um, is replaced in the word final position by Jabagardada. Jabagardada. That's it. Well, okay, so that's the first question and answer. What makes it less straightforward than it may seem at first? I mean, we learn the sutra and we can say, well, we get this. Uh, uh, that chel is replaced by chesh. So, well, the big thing is that most of the so Sandhi is largely about substitution, and most of the substitution we have covered so far has involved one letter, ekadesha, a lot of them, like in one form or another. And the ones that are not ekadesha, they are simple in a different way, thanks to yatasankhya manudesha samanam. They have been lists of equal length. So ekoyanachi, echoya vayavaha, those are they are sort of automatic in their own way, because in addition to stanentara tamaha, the closest comes, we also know, thanks to the very, very handy yatasankhya manudesha samanam, lists of equal length are related in ordered pairs. So this is a kind of a big jump. And I may have missed something along the way, but I think this is the first that's quite this big a jump. And it is a preview to some of the sutras that we are going to confront coming up. They get, in a way, more complicated. And in particular, they require us to really think about what these pratyahara are, as well as some other things. So I'm going to go back to Akshara Samamnaya for a moment, because there's an element of this that Prabhakar Shastri explained to me, or at least said at the very, very, very beginning of our studies, and that I never really paid much attention to. But I'm paying a lot more attention to it now because it is interesting to me. So Akshara Samamnaya, as you know, I generated 4 videos on the topic. A-I-Un, A-I-Un, Ruluk. And by the way, one of our outstanding contemporary scholars says that Akshara Samamnaya does not include Dirga Dirga I, Dirga U, and so on. Well, we know that that's not actually true. So A-I-Un, Ruluk, Aong, Ayouch, Hayavarat, Lan, Nyamangananam, Jabangi, Kardadash, Jabagadadash, Kapachatata Chatatav, Kapai, Shashasar Hal. Now, the bit that I didn't pay attention to for a long time, we'll say, is what he mentioned sort of in passing. And that is what I have over here on the side. Nyamangananam, 5th. Jabhayi, 4th. Kartadash, 4th. Jabagardadash, 3rd. Kapachatata, Chatatav, 2nd and 1st. Kapai, 1st. Sheshasar Hal. Well, what is that saying actually? Well, to get to that, we have to go back to our other form of the alphabet that we've discussed before, and to kind of put together how these interrelate. So it has to do with the K Vargas, or the udits, as we know. And we know this is not trivial, because one of our most famous sutras so far is Anudit Savarnasya Cha Pratyayaha. Well, what are the udits? They are the vargas, kapachatata, chajajanya, tatadanana, tatadadana, papababama. And so each of those are an udit, ku, chu, tu, pu. It's udits. And what's going to be more clear over time is that the these two modes of describing grammatical collections, or collections of letters, are very active, interchanging or combining in the grammar. And that's because we need both of them to convey certain groups. And without that, we can't do everything. Also, it's a way of thinking a little bit more deeply into the Akshara Samamnaya itself, which is something I'm going to try to do as we go along with you. And so Chalam Jashonte is Chal being replaced by Jabagadadash, and we can now say Jabagadadash is, from our recent review, is the thirds. What are the thirds? Well, 1, 2, 3, ga, ja, da, da, ba. Not the same order, but they're the thirds in the Vargas, the thirds in the Vargas. Now, the other angle we've explored in the thus far is concerns the obviously the places of articulation, and we've been through that pretty comprehensively. And often, but basically, we are using the udits akuha visarjiniyanam kantaha ichu yashanam talu and so on. Now the other, in addition to the stanani, we have the interior and exterior efforts of articulation. And I think it may be useful to go back to the video I did on the external efforts of articulation, because they include groups of sounds, ultimately akshara, uh, that seem very subtle. And I will say, even when I was asking Prabhakar Shastri about this, thinking about the external efforts was not as uh, spontaneous to him. Maybe it's partly coming up with the English words for them. But they are not just useful in terms of certain Sandhi rules. And we'll come to that in a second. And this is really the point of both the pop quiz and today's video, which is to say that I'm going to try to think and share more deeply into these different groupings. Because again, it's one thing to say we know the sutra Chalam Jashonte, but what does that mean? What is being replaced by what and why? So I'm not going to try to go beyond saying that, except that the other groupings that I think we should at least recall are from the external efforts of articulation. And they are, first of all, kai, which is a pratyahara, ka, pa, cha, ta, ta, chatatav kapayi, ka, pa, cha, ta, ta, chatatav kapayi, or also another way of describing them or subdividing them are also called the first two, ka, ka, cha, cha, ta, 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 pa, pa. And then hush, the others, ga, ga, nga, ja, ja, nga, da, da, na, ba, ba, ma, ka, la, la, va. Ha. Um, and then one more group, which is, oops, sorry, ayugmaha, which are the first, third, and fifth, or the odds of the udits. So, ka, ga, nga, cha, ja, nya, ta, da, na, ta, da, na, ta, da, na, ta, da, na. Pabama. Um, and so just to look for a moment, putting them all together. The udits or the vargas, ka ka ga ga nga, cha cha ja cha nga, ta ta da da na, na, ta ta da ta na, pa 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 ma, pa 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 ma. Um, and underneath, I've summarized these other groupings that are in use. They're kais, ka ka cha cha, ta 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 ta, pa pa, hush. The others, the kais, remember, are the first two. Hush are the others. Ga ga nga, ja ja nya, da da na, da da na, pa pa ma. And finally, the ayugmaha, the odds. Kaganga, chajanya, kadana, tadana, pabama. Now, so that's it. I wanted to reintroduce these and mention them. Um, and this was a turning point. So we will have lots of opportunities to uh, think about these groupings and so on, and what they're really trying to tell us. Why should Josh replace Joe, and so on? And now, just for the fun of it, uh, just because some of these, especially the external efforts of articulation, may seem a little far afield, but there's a Vartika we'll see shortly. Chayodviti yaha shari paushkara sadeiti vacham. Chayodviti yaha shari paushkara sadeiti vacham. And this is saying, in the view of uh, Paushkara Paushkara Sadi, in place of chais, the second ones shall come when shada follows. So the second ones in this rule, this Vartika, the second ones are the second ones in the Karaka. So ka, cha, ta, ta, pa. So these are all intermingled. That's the idea. And I think it is fun and certainly expanding my horizons to try to think more deeply into what these rules are actually saying from a logical, practical point of view. And if I do another pop quiz, I'll try to find a email address that can be used.